Hello, I'm Moira Alderson with the BBC News. Hamas has said it's seeking to extend the 4-day truce with Israel that's seen dozens of hostages released from Gaza in exchange for Palestinian prisoners. After a phone call between US President Joe Biden and the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, both men agreed they would continue working to secure the release of all hostages. Lucy Williamson is in Jerusalem.
The Israeli government all along has been very clear that once the deal comes to a final end, then the war will resume. But the deal does include provision for an extension of the kind that Hamas seems to be outlining. And Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu did signal that he was also open to that sort of extension. He talked about a framework that says you can release 10 more hostages every day. That's a blessed thing, he said. He also told President Biden that at the end of that framework, we'll return with all our strength to realise our goals.
Sunday saw the release of 14 Israeli and 3 Thai hostages by Hamas. One of them, 84-year-old Elma Avraham, was in critical condition after her health was seriously neglected during her captivity. Another of those freed was 4-year-old Abigail Edan, a dual US-Israeli national. President Biden said she was in Americans' thoughts as she had been through a terrible ordeal.
2 days ago, one of our fellow Americans, a little girl named Abigail, who turned 4 years old, she spent her birthday and at least 50 days before that held hostage by Hamas. Today, she's free, and Jill and I, together with so many Americans, are praying for the fact that she is going to be all right.
Israel freed 39 Palestinian prisoners in return. The governor of the American state of Vermont, Phil Scott, has said that the shooting of 3 students of Palestinian descent should not incite more hate or divisiveness. Police said the 3 men, all aged 20, were visiting the city of Burlington for the Thanksgiving holiday when they were shot. They are not critically injured. The president of Sierra Leone, Julius Maada Bio, says most of the leaders of Sunday's attack on a military barracks and prisons in Freetown have been arrested. In a televised speech, he said calm had now been restored. More from Mayeni Jones.
Mr. Bio said calm had been restored in the West African nation, but he gave no details about who the perpetrators were, nor what they wanted. He also didn't say what happened to the escaped prisoners. According to the authorities, the city's main prisons were attacked by gunmen, leading the armed forces to make a tactical retreat to protect civilian lives. They claim some prisoners were abducted by the assailants, while others were released. A military barracks near the presidential palace was also targeted early on Sunday morning. The political situation in Sierra Leone has been tense since June, when President Maada Bio was re-elected after narrowly missing a runoff.
Mayeni Jones reporting. World News from the BBC. An Africa-based religious charity says that a German missionary kidnapped a year ago in Mali has been freed by Islamist militants linked to al-Qaeda. Father Hans-Joachim Laura was seized in the capital Bamako. No details are known about the circumstances of his release. Father Laura has lived in Mali for 30 years, teaching interreligious dialogue at a mixed Islamic-Christian institute. Almost 500,000 people in Russian-occupied Crimea are without power because of a storm raging in the Black Sea. Forecasters warned of heavy rain and winds of up to 130 kilometres an hour. Further north in Ukraine, the storm has brought heavy snow. New Zealand's new centre-right government has been sworn in at a ceremony in Wellington. The National Party won October's elections, but needed the support of 2 smaller right-wing parties. Phil Mercer reports.
More than 6 weeks after a general election, New Zealand finally has a new government. It's been sworn in at a ceremony in Wellington. The Prime Minister Christopher Luxon leads a centre-right coalition with the Libertarian ACT New Zealand Party and the populist New Zealand First. It intends to repeal a ban on offshore oil and gas exploration, as well as cutting income taxes. There are plans too to scrap tough tobacco laws that aim to make New Zealand smoke-free. Mr Luxon said the legislation would have fuelled an illicit trade in cigarettes.
The Irish author Paul Lynch has won this year's Booker Prize for Fiction for his novel Prophet Song. The work imagines a dystopian Ireland of the future under a totalitarian regime. Paul Lynch has said he was inspired to write the book by the Syrian refugee crisis. In his acceptance speech, he thanked all the children of this world who, he said, needed our protection, yet had lived and continued to live through the terrors depicted in the book. That's the latest BBC News.